As someone with a small following, how could I provide value to brands? What can I say? I am blown away from my experience at Founders Only in Austin, Texas. I knew I was going to learn a lot going into the retreat, but there was so much more that it provided, from like building super deep relationships, which that's what I love doing, hearing other people's stories and understanding how this machine of the creator economy works. It was multifaceted because some of the people I met are people that I could see myself becoming like really good friends with and continuing the relationship outside of the retreat that we just got back from. In this video, we'll cover how I got there, what is Founders Only Club, why I went, what I learned, would I go again? And at the end of the video, I'll go through the response of asking people, as someone with a small following, how can I provide value to a brand? So be sure to check that out, as some of the responses were really great answers from leaders within the space. But let's start with how I got there. So in the process of leaving my corporate job, one of the things that like my mom said to me was to find a conference within my industry so I could not only meet people, but start to learn about like what's the future of the industry. One thing for sure is I know the corporate world. I know how that machine works, and it was something where I know how the corporate life works, everything from like how to climb the ladder to like insurance to how the day is structured. But entrepreneurship was kind of like this new space of like, how do people make a living being an entrepreneur? And I wanted to learn that because that's the space that I wanted to be in. And so when I think about my industry, I was thinking about a couple of different spaces. I was thinking about health and wellness, of course. I was thinking about tech and also social media. And so as I was kind of going through like the internet of finding different places that I would check out, the first one that came to mind was South by Southwest. I thought that that was the one that I should attend. I always saw a bunch of leaders in the space going there. So that was my immediate thought to go. The ticket was around $2,000, which I knew ahead of time, like I was gonna have to spend some money. So I was like, okay, let's sleep on it. Let's make sure that this is what we wanna do. And then I don't know if it was a couple of days later or like a week or so later, but Jake from Arsenal, we were both in the office one day and he goes, hey, you should really come with me next month to Founders Only in Austin, Texas. And I was thinking to myself, like, what's Founders Only? And what I really learned here was that like Founders Only is like a community that connects creators, founders, and investors all within health and wellness, but you do it through an activity-based retreat. So the days are structured out where you wake up, you show up to a place, there's food and like everything there. So you can eat before, but we always start with a workout and then you could eat after if you want to eat after. It's typically followed by some session with a speaker. We then do a midday run followed by more sessions, and then we end the day with contrast therapy. So there's always cold plunges and saunas set up, and that's usually done for like 1 to 2 hours. We then have dinner, and then there's networking to the end of the night. So they're definitely jam-packed days that start from 8 a.m. all the way till like 8, 9, 10 p.m. just depending on when you call it in. And it really reminded me of something at my last corporate job. I was at a company called Gartner, and they would host these annual conferences, and I'd always heard about like how great they were, how big they were, but I never attended. And so when my mom brought up like, hey, find the biggest conference within your space, this started to make sense. And so before making the decision to go, I was kind of evaluating. I'm like, wait, this is so weird. Founders Only is in Austin, Texas. So is South by Southwest. It's actually in the same week. You know, it was kind of a sign. And I was like, you know what? I think I should do Founders Only over South by Southwest. And the reason why I decided to do that was because I was going to have more intimate discussions with leaders, founders, investors within the health and wellness industry. I felt as if I did go to South by Southwest, while I may have still learned a ton, I don't think I would have gotten the same level of engagement with the leaders within the space. I feel like I would have been a cog in the machine because there's thousands and thousands of people that go to this event. And for founders only, it was around 30 people that went. So a much smaller group, but you're here right next to these founders and executives, investors talking about like what they're going through. And even outside of the business discussions, you're learning about their life, things that they have struggled with in the past, what they're thinking about for their future. You're getting to know them on an emotional, mental, spiritual level. So I felt like that was more of a fit for me. So I decided to do founders only over South by Southwest, and I am so happy that I did it. And before moving forward, so the cost for founders only was $2,000 as well. And I knew that I knew it was going to be a lot of money, but I knew that at some point in the future, I was going to get that back. I didn't know when, but I knew for sure I was going to get that back. And I'll kind of jump into like what I learned in a second here, because I did already get the money back from the event. One of the things that I learned about was how do entrepreneurs handle health coverage without going broke, spending all their money on insurance? So, I just recently left corporate, and one of the things that they offer you is like Cobra insurance. And for one person, it's like $700 and something. And I'm like, that's a lot of money for just healthcare insurance. Like, I'm a healthy guy. I haven't gone to the doctor in years for anything serious. Like, I literally go once a year. And one of the speakers through at the retreat was the CEO of this company called Crowd Health. It's a crowdfunding health coverage. They can't say insurance for compliance reasons or something like that, but essentially it's a crowd-funded health coverage plan. And it looks like it was around $200 for me to do a month. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that makes sense. And they have this vetting process where, they want a community of healthy individuals, right? Because they don't want the cost to be going up. It almost reminded me of car insurance. Why should you pay more if you're a good driver? And that's kind of what I thought here with healthcare insurance. Because why would I pay a ton of money for healthcare insurance that I never use? That's over $8,000. And so learning about these different companies and the different ways that people get coverage and just live their lives, again, understanding the machine was a value add to me for this retreat. That was one of the big wins. The other thing too was I knew going into this retreat that I didn't know what I didn't know. I know what I want to do. I know what I want my end state to look like, but I don't know how to get there. So I wanted to go into this space where people are doing exactly what I want to be doing, and I want to just learn. I want to double the amount of time that I'm listening and cut the time that I'm talking in half and really just absorb as much information as I can. And so one of the things that I covered that I'll show at the end of the video was how to provide value to brands as a creator with a small following, understanding what do they care about? What can I do for them? And how can I stand out against everybody else that's trying to make it in this world? The second one is, we talked a little bit about this, which was how the creator economy operates, or as I call it, the machine. Being able to visualize it, which I have on the board now here because I did this last night, and being able to see the whole system itself the same way that I was able to whiteboard a data center back in my tech days. I was servers here, SAN here, networking, APs, end users, blah, blah, blah. I now can do that with the creator economy. It makes sense now. The other piece too was, this was more on the deep relationships aspect of it, where everybody's dealing with something internally. There are some people that are running these really, really big companies that you may probably know about, and they're just hurting inside. And it was cool that we were able to create a space and some time for that, because I definitely unloaded about a few things, because while leaving corporate to pursue my passion is an exciting thing, it's also a very scary thing. I do think about, how am I going to make money? How am I going to take care of Odessa? How am I going to pay my bills? And that's why I attended this, was because I wanted to get those answers of how did these guys do this? And it was one of the times where I thought to myself, man, I get it. I feel seen and heard, because I've been through some stuff as well too, and we won't get into that, but it's yeah, we're all dealing with stuff. How do we manage that? How do we take care of that, but also continue to move on, because life does go on. The health coverage piece we talked about, and then the big thing that I learned here was that the investment in people, deep relationships, is what makes the difference. And I'm reading directly off my notes here because I wanted to make sure that I said it exactly how I wrote it. The investment in people people, deep relationships is what makes the difference. Anyone can put together a service or business that offers things, but it's the brand, people, culture, and community that makes the difference in a company you just buy from every once in a while versus the one you're loyal to. And it reminded me of a saying that I learned back at the first company I worked for getting out of college, which was CDW. In their warehouse, they had a sign with a bunch of penguins, and above the it was a bunch of penguins hanging out with each other. And on that sign, it said, "People do business with people they like." And I remembered that, and I built my career off of that saying. I may not be the smartest guy. I may not be the fastest guy. And I think about that with my athletics. Like, I'm not the tallest guy. I'm not the most ripped guy. I don't have the FKTs. I'm not the strongest guy. But like, I'm doing my best, and I always do my best to respect the people that are around me that are on that same path. And, you know, just tying everything together where it's like, we're all dealing with shit. We're all trying to live a better life. Anybody can start a business that offers things. That's easy. What the difference is creating a space that pulls the people that are like you in a safe and welcoming way while offering those services. That's hard. And I think culture is a big piece, and that, like, to me, is a super important thing. I am a big advocate for deep relationships and cultivating community. And like the Arsenal team, like the athlete team that I run for them, most of the athletes, 99% of the requests that I get are not fitness related. They don't need my help telling them how to train. A lot of it's on the mental side, or just creating a space to talk, feeling heard, feeling seen, feeling like they are enough, or they're not overtraining, or they're not, you know, I have people that say, I feel like I'm not doing enough. You know, and so like creating that space, that culture, and that community, I think is the biggest difference between someone that's just viewed as like a manager and a leader. And it was nice because for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was around the people, my people, 100%. So the other question is, would I go again? The answer is yes. I 100% would go again, and here's why. One, I just mentioned it. I really enjoyed the company that I was around, the people that I was around, and I could see myself building some long-term relationships there. I felt like I could be my authentic self. Two is the retreat is hosted in different locations throughout the year. So this pulls different people into the retreats, which is nice. So you just continue to network, meet more people, which, you know, I love doing. And the third piece here, which is something I think I really need, right? Because it's like, you're paying to go to this, right? Like, you need to ensure that you're getting the value out of this. And a big value add for me is accountability. And this is why people pay for personal trainers, dietitians, right? Executive coaches. I need accountability. I want the people that I met in Austin to be in the Denver retreat and they asked the question, "Hey Omar, how's everything going with XYZ that we talked in Austin?" I want to have an answer for them. I want to have progress for them. Right? Because now I don't feel so alone, because, like, you know, I love that I'm doing what I'm doing, but there are some times where I feel like I'm alone. And that was part of the agreement that I made with myself. Like, hey, you have to be okay with this. There's no team, there's no manager, there's no, you know, support system. Like, it's you. And like, maybe that's how it is now, maybe that's not how it's going to be later, but that's okay, because we're on the path to living the life that we want to live. And this retreat really helps fill a different cup of accountability. And, you know, there's a part of me that doesn't want to let those people down. And then lastly, again, I still don't, not just because I went to one doesn't mean I know everything. I still don't know what I don't know, because I am in the discovery phase of figuring out, like, the machine, how it works, how to put it into a process. What does my schedule look like on a day-to-day basis now, and what are the things that I need to prioritize? And then there's the next level, right? How do I start allocating certain things to people? Like, what do I offload to a contractor to handle so I don't have to do those things? Then you start to build the team, right? So like, one of the questions, I stayed with this guy, David, who is amazing. And I think about the YouTube channel. And one of the questions that I have for him once I get into a process is like, hey, what are some of the first things that you outsourced and why? How did you do that? How did you vet people out? How do you review their work? Do you have any like cadences on how you meet them? What do you pay? Stuff like that. Like, these are things that I don't know today, but I think that's more in like the phase 2. And right now I'm just getting my feet under me of like the process. And so to go back to the question, would I go again? 100%. So if you do want to check it out, if this is something that like is up your alley that you want to check out, I highly recommend it. It was 100% worth it. You meet some great people. Check it out. I'll put a link below to Founders Only if you want to check it out. So now we will get to the question and answers of the one question I asked everybody, which was, as someone with a small following, how can I provide value to brands?
Laser focus your messaging around something you're really passionate and knowledgeable about, so your audience knows you for like one thing really well, and then work with brands who, you know, the problem you're solving for your audience, work with brands that are also trying to solve that problem. So go narrow and deep in a certain area.
A lot of brands are looking for assets. When you think of yourself as literally, let's say this video right here, that brand can use that asset and run ads dollars behind that for all their channels. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, podcasts, there's so many different ways that they can use your content in the ad space. Therefore, you don't even need a following.
Yeah.
And because they're paying for your image and likeness and the asset that you're providing them. So if you see yourself more as a product, this guy does a great job of doing that.
Yeah, whitelisting it's called. So allow brands to whitelist content through your account. But again, make sure that it's really good product market fit for, you know, what unique value you provide.
I would find out from those brands what's a common question that they're getting maybe on DMs or you know, what people are asking before they make the decision to purchase that product. And I would answer that question to your audience. It doesn't matter how big your audience is. If it's 5 people, 500 people, 5 million people, if you can answer a question and help people make an educated decision, I think as a brand, that would be super valuable.
Identify brands that are actually doing brand deals. Look at their Instagram page, see what they're actually posting. Buy their product yourself, make your own videos, and tag them in it for free. That's how you automatically provide value. And then see if they want to reach out to you, send them a DM, send them a don't. And if they don't, move on to the next brand, move on to the next brand if you're trying to get deals. Not every single brand is going to connect with you and reach out, but if you just buy their product, don't email them first and say, hey, can you send me a box of it? Unless it's like a super high ticket item, which you probably shouldn't be reaching for that brand anyways. Go for a small ticket item, buy it yourself, do the videos for free, and then if it's good enough, they're going to reach out to you.
An epic story. I'm a perfect example. I have a small following and I receive decent brand deals, and it's brand new to me. So I have a great story and I have a great storytelling ability. And then here's the other piece too: be easy for the brands. Like the biggest creators are the worst at creating their content, editing their content, getting quality content. They expect a camera person to show up. If you are a small following, you have to have all those things. You have to be good at video, you have to be good at editing, you have to have good B-roll. If you can put that all in a package, people will use that value over someone with a huge following that won't do shit for them.
You know, like making a good video about the product, promoting the product, and then doing like 5 or 6 reels of those, and then going like, hey, this is what I do, here's what I could offer you, and go from there.
I'm looking for content, and so if someone even has a low following but they can really connect with an audience, then if they can shoot good content with our product, then we can run ads on it.
So it takes the load of you having to create the content for yourself off.
Yeah. Because you never know what content's going to hit too. It could be the same message from this person, and this cranks and this doesn't.
I think just by giving your like actual feedback and opinion, you know what I mean? I think we need more truth in the world, so start there, you know?
With a small following, the best way to provide value to brands is really promoting advocacy over awareness. So, you know, one thing that we talk about in some of our marketing team's metrics and goals is really building a strong connection and advocacy for the brand, not just making people know who we are.
If there's a brand that I really want to work with and I have a pretty sizable following, I just make content for them and I send it to them. And I say, hey, what do you think about this content? As opposed to reaching out to a brand and saying, hey, I can make you content. Brand doesn't like that, especially if there's not a big enough following where you're going to be able to turn other people onto their brand. So go ahead and just make the content. Say, I love your brand. I think that, you know, I can make great content for you. Here's the content, because at the end of the day, what a brands don't necessarily need you to expose the brand to their community. If you make great content, that's very valuable for the brand. So make content for the brand. Say, hey, go try this in your ad channel. and see if it works. And if it works, I would love to figure out a way to work with you guys on a monetary basis.
That's great.
So do the work, give it to them, let them test it, and then that's how you're going to get your deal.